Hi guys, it's Jodie King here for Hip Kit Club, and today I'm creating a trio of cards using the beautiful September kits from Hip Kit Club, and I'm using just the main kit and the cardstock kit only. So everything that you see me creating with today comes from either the main kit or the cardstock kit from September. For my first card, I have an idea to create a little envelope and have flowers sticking out of the top of it. So I've trimmed out one envelope there using my envelope punch board. Now, while I've used that, because that's a tool that I have in my stash, if you don't have an envelope punch board, you can just Google envelope shapes to cut out, and that will give you lots of examples to trace out onto your pattern paper that you can use as well. You can see that I've already trimmed one out and now I'm just doing a second one. That's because you can see there the reverse of that paper is very different to the side that I'm wanting to focus on. So I'm wanting to use that pretty aqua side, and I think it's kind of like an animal print or floral black and white there, and I don't want that to show. So what I'm doing here is just trimming out an extra little bit so that when my envelope is folded up, you actually see that turquoise bit on the front that you can see there now. So I'm just fussy cutting another little floral piece to stick in my envelope. You can see that I've already cut one out there, and I'm just going to quickly cut another one of these out. I did actually have two pieces of this pattern paper, so they are both from the one piece of pattern paper, but there are quite a few of these pretty Jen Hadfield floral elements that you can pick and choose different flowers to cut out. I've also trimmed out one of the sweet little notepad papers from the Dear Lizzie She's Magic Perfectly Imperfect paper. It has a bunch of little notepad paper type pieces on there that you can fussy cut out. And I'm just tucking that into my envelope behind the flowers so that it adds another layer and brings a pop of that pretty yellow to the card as well. I've decided to go ahead and add another fussy cut piece to my little envelope of flowers there. Those two original pieces that I cut out were looking very similar because of course they were exactly the same floral element. So just adding that one extra piece in gives a little bit more detail and breaks up that repetition of the first two. So I pull everything out and start sticking things down, and I'm really happy with how that is looking. I end up using some foam dots there just to pop up that top floral cluster, and just going about my way merrily there. Now, I don't know if you've spotted this, but that's just where I realized that I've completely forgotten about my little notepad piece of paper. So thankfully the glue hadn't quite dried completely and I was able to take that out, slip my little notepad in there, pops that up with some foam dots, and continue on. And how sweet does that look? I'm so happy with how that turned out. And now that I've done that focal point of the card, I'm just going to move on with preparing the base for it. So my brief for today is to use the Jen Hadfield paper called Bits and Pieces, which has lots of beautiful sentiments on it, and that's from Pebbles Ink and American Crafts. And it also has that beautiful green pattern on the reverse side of it. And you'll notice that that green pattern is also a paper that I feature heavily in this card set today as well. Now this card base is really super simple. So the cards that I'm using are 5.5 inches square. So I've trimmed the green pattern paper to 5.5 inches square as well, so that it goes right to the edges of the card. And then I've trimmed that text paper down to 4.25 inches, and then I've used my beautiful gold thread in my sewing machine and run a zigzag stitch around the end of that. Because I've got my envelope there that's just stuffed full of those pretty flowers, you really don't need too much of a busy background on this card at all. I'm wrapping some thread around the base of my envelope and also using one of the gorgeous buttons from Dear Lizzie that are in the main kit this month. That thread, there's nothing special about it. It's actually just a plain white crochet thread. But it's a beautiful thread to use for your paper crafting projects, and it also works out to be quite inexpensive as well, so that's why I love it so much. To finish off this card, I'm just adhering down my sentiment and placing the twine where I want it to sit and gluing that down with a couple of little dots of glue, and that one's done. On my second card, I've done a little bit of work off camera, and that is to use two different circle dies, one slightly larger than the other. And first of all, I've cut one of the 3x4 cards from the Fun Times Jen Hadfield pattern paper that has that pretty floral cluster just popping out of a watering can, I think it is. And then I've cut a slightly larger one out of the cardstock from the cardstock kit, and that was the Basil Aqua cardstock. I'm making a little tag here at the moment, and to make sure that I get the 45-degree angle that I'm after on that tag, I line up the diagonal lines on my paper trimmer, and then just after I've cut that first little triangle out, I flip it across to the other side and match it up to then trim that second one out, and then they both match perfectly and they're on a 45-degree angle. I've reached for this typewritten type paper again. It provides a lovely contrast against the darker green background, and again, these cards don't have too many layers to them. They're a fairly simple background, but just having a few pieces that have a nice contrast are enough when it comes to making card projects. Now I've got all those little bits and pieces down, I'm still having a hard time being really happy with everything that I've got on this card. I'm just not feeling it. You can see that I've got some glue on the little reinforcing tab for the tag there. Trying different sentiments, and I'm just not really happy with it. So I'm trying a different coloured tab reinforcer there, and I kind of like that, but yeah, there's still... I've just taken the whole tag off, so obviously that wasn't working for me. And so I'm just going to fuss for a little bit, just going to play here and try a few different things and see where it takes me. I'm quite liking this Sunshiny Day sentiment, so that's the one that I've decided to go with. And I also really like that mustard coloured hole reinforcer that I've punched out as well. So that's what I'm going to go with, and I'm much happier now with how this looks. All I need to do now is retie my little bow and add my sentiment in the spot where I want it, and then that's my second card done as well. My third card in the trio uses another one of the 3x4 cards from the Jen Hadfield collection, and I've used a circle die cut to die cut that piece out again, but you might notice you can just see there that there's a couple of leaves sticking out from the edges of it. So all I did was worked out generally where the die cut was going to land and what bits were going to be too big for the die cut out of those leaves. And then I fussy cut just the very tips of those leaves and folded them in on top of each other before I placed the circle die cut over the top and ran it through my Big Shot. And so then once you finish cutting it and you fold the leaves out, they stick out just a little bit further than the circle that you've cut out. I haven't tried that before, but it's just a little idea that I had, and I'm glad I did because I think it's quite cute the way that it worked out. I've pulled some of the white cardstock out of the cardstock kit, and I wasn't sure which edge punch I wanted to use, so I've pulled out a scallop and also a negative scallop as well, and I've just decided to go with the regular scallop. So I've cut those out, and I'm just being a bit lazy here drawing a pencil line to make it easier for me to line them up. Once I've got that adhered down, I just take that off to my sewing machine off camera and run it through on a zigzag stitch with my favorite gold metallic thread. And I have used gold metallic thread on each of these cards, so it's another element that I've carried through the entire card set. For the sentiment on this card, I've had an idea rather than just cutting out a square or a rectangular sentiment. I'm going to fussy cut out each of the letters of the sentiment and allow them to follow the circular line of the circle element that I have in the middle of the card. I just cut out the first couple there to see if that was something that I could do, and I'm really liking how that looks, so I'm going to go ahead with that. I've also fussy cut out one of the other sentiments, and that just says yeah, and it's a really cute sentiment to go along with vacay. It's kind of in the theme of a Bon Voyage card, and I really like the two of those sentiments together. So I'm just adding some dimensional tape between the top and lower circles there, and pretty soon I realized that because I've got those individual letters there, I need some more backing behind those letters to keep them rigid enough. So I'm going and pulling that apart, and I'm going to adhere that top circle right over the base circle, and then I'm going to pop them both up with some foam tape, and that will just provide a better base for those individual letters that are really just pattern paper, to keep them rigid enough with that extra dimension below them. I have the rest of my fussy cut letters cut out now, and oh my goodness, they're such slippery little suckers, you can see. I'm having a bit of trouble wrangling them here, but that is exactly how I want them to look. They look pretty cute there, so I'm going to go ahead and adhere them down. I'm just putting glue on the bottom 2/3 of them, and they just hang over that little circle on the top. I should mention too that the mustard coloured tag there that I have, I actually cut from one of the 3x4 elements on the Jen Hadfield cut apart paper. I always look for little bits and pieces like that that you can repurpose from the original design, and there was just enough there for that tag, and I really like that mustard colour. It's one of my favourite colours, and so I just used the area of that card that I could without the original design included on it. I've added some more crochet thread and a pretty little button to this card as well, and I'm just tucking that away in there. I've also added a few enamel dots from the Pink Fresh Studio Mixed Ephemera pack that comes in the main kit, and I also go back and add them to my other 2 cards as well. And with that, my card trio is done. Thank you so much for stopping by today, guys. I'm going to leave links in the description box below to all of the products that I've used on these cards today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I am going to leave you with a few close-ups here, and I hope to see you again soon for another YouTube process video. Bye guys!